swords, spears, daggers. What's going on in the streets of Canada? I followed the Khalistani movement to United States, California, Sacramento, where they're holding a non-binding referendum for a separate Sikh state. My guest, Bob Ray, he's a former Sikh. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mocha.
You're a former Sikh. You have tremendous knowledge about the inner workings of the Khalistani movement. And let me start by asking you, why did you leave the Sikh religion?
Well, as a born and raised Canadian, as I was growing up, I began to discover that the religion is being distorted, not only through scriptures and what the clergy is preaching, but also with a violent ideology. Sikh organizations as well as Sikh temples, various Sikh temples that I used to attend as a child, were radicalizing small children from the time that they started to go to Sikh school on Sundays at the temples. And as I got older, I just did not believe in the way they were directing a peaceful group of people and filling them with hatred towards, for example, Hindus and the country of India. Most of these people that were running the temples and these so-called charitable, phony charitable organizations in Canada, they were strictly motivated by greed in making a fool out of people and collecting donations.
Right now we are in Sacramento. In the background we can hear the chants of pro-Khalistan activists, and today they're holding a non-binding referendum. What is your observations? You went into the crowd. What is the significance of this non-binding referendum that's being held right behind you?
So this non-binding referendum is a deviation or deflection tactic being used by this remote-controlled organization called Sikhs for Justice that is being controlled by other older Sikh charitable, in disguise, destructive organizations from Canadian and American soil. They are doing this in one final desperate attempt to collect donations by making a fool out of the general public. 95% of the people I have seen at this event in Sacramento, they seem to be new Americans that have only immigrated here a few years ago. But the administrators seem like educated people that have resided in the U.S. for a number of years.
I see. So you're saying that this is not a genuine desire to separate from India?
No, the referendum has absolutely no credibility. The Sikhs have always played the race card with the Indian government, and they have gotten more than their fair share of help and assistance from the government of India. They have politicians, they even had a prime minister of India that was a Sikh. Holding a referendum and creating chaos in the United States as well as Canada, these people need to grow up and start behaving like adults.
What you're saying as a former Sikh is very different than what the Khalistani activists are saying. They're saying they're being genocided. They're saying the Indian agents are coming to US, Canada, and assassinating them. Let me ask you the recent New York indictment. What do you make of that?
The leader of the Sikhs for Justice movement is some rogue element named Gurpadawan Panu, and he preaches hatred and posts it to social media, and is supported by these Sikh temples as well as nefarious charitable organizations. And they do this to make a fool out of new immigrants from Punjab that have arrived into Canada or the US. They espouse emotions and sentiments and propagate a false narrative inside of their temples and other functions.
That's interesting. So today the crowd seems to be more peaceful and non-threatening than what I observed and experienced in Edmonton, in Calgary, in Canada, in Vancouver. Is there anything that Canadians and Americans should be worried about regarding the Khalistani activists in their countries?
Canadian and U.S. government, as well as police and security agencies, need to monitor these radicals because in 1985 they orchestrated the largest single-strike aviation terrorism attack from Canadian soil. It was conspired in Canada by these questionable charitable organizations that were registered in Canada and the United States, and it caused the destruction of a lot of innocent lives. I feel that had these airplane bombers and conspirators from Canada been arrested and punished, it could have prevented 9/11, which was the largest terrorism attack inflicted on American soil.
Interesting. Another question I have for you is relating to the inquiry, the public inquiry that happened in Canada, and we saw signages within the crowd insinuating that it was Indian government who did the Kanishka bombings. What do you make of that?
So after the Kanishka bombing in June of 1985, the RCMP were determined to arrest the conspirators that were involved in this terrorist attack. But for liability reasons, the Canadian government and its Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, were motivated to destroy any investigation that the RCMP was conducting. And this allowed the true perpetrators to get away, and not only get away, to be rewarded for their terrorism committed against Canadians from Canadian soil. And this is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, speaking of being rewarded, what is the extent of their political influence within Canada and US?
One of the oldest in disguise, morally bankrupt charitable organizations in Canada is called the World Sikh Organization, and the founding Ayatollah of the World Sikh Organization is an evil character that is a cancer to Canadian society. He has infiltrated politics as well as the bureaucracy end of governance and misused his power because he is endorsed for his history that is highly questionable by the Canadian government and the Canadian Secret Service.
Those were very large. Those were very large claims.
Well, they were very large claims, but the Ayatollah was interrogated on multiple times right after the airplane bombing in 1985. The Ayatollah of Sikhism. The Ayatollah of the World Sikh Organization was interrogated multiple times by the RCMP Disaster Task Force for his involvement in the Air India bombing of 1985.
What do you make of a bus from British Columbia being here?
My perception of seeing a BC license plate civilian transport bus at this nefarious event in Sacramento, California, shows me that the Sikh temples in BC, as well as Ontario, as well as all over Canada, have been hijacked by donation collecting organizations, and the funds that they collect are being misused to interfere in the politics of the United States of America.
Well, we saw some pictures of Hardeep Singh Nijjar down there as well. Who is Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a questionable character that gained control over a Sikh temple located in British Columbia. He was just a gangster, and he was eliminated by other gangsters in Canada. There's hundreds of these Punjab-related intertribal gang warfare murders all the time. His murder created an uproar in Canada, and these nefarious Sikh organizations from Canada started to slander India, and they claimed that they even made the Prime Minister of Canada claim that the Indian government had involvement in the murder of this gangster, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
So you don't find any credibility from the New York indictment?
There is no mention of Hardeep Najjar. He has no connection to the New York indictment, and if he does have a connection to the New York indictment, it will also be connected to organized Sikh religious gangs that are operating as charities in Canada.
While you're a former Sikh, let me ask you this question. Are you afraid for your safety making these comments?
I'm always afraid and cautious, as well as aware of my surroundings. These are a very dangerous group of radicalized people that will commit heinous crimes, as we have determined from their past actions.
I remember you telling me your experience at a temple after the bombing happened.
Yes, when I was a child, my mother would always take us to the Sikh temples, and in 1985, after the Air India bombing, I remember there was mass celebrations at the Sikh temples all across Canada. People were rejoicing and giving each other hugs and sweets and saying we did it, and they felt very proud of killing over 300 people, innocent victims that were part of the Air India flight that day.
My last question, do you have a message to people who are going along with the Khalistani movement?
My message to Sikhs that might not be that theologically advanced in their education of their own religion, to eliminate the confusion and distortion, and do not donate any money to these largely criminal organizations that have hijacked the once peaceful Sikh religion.
Thank you so much for doing the interview. Do you have any last comments?
My last comments are that these Sikh charitable organizations, as well as Sikh temples, should not be hurting each other and losing sleep over their previous conduct. They should come out in the open and repent for their past sins.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining in the conversation. I will bring you more fruitful conversations with more interesting and credible individuals like Bob Ray, who was a former Sikh and who saw the inner workings of the Khalistani extremists. For more content like this, please consider donating at mediabezirgan.com/donate and follow Media Bezirgan for more news content. Thank you very much.